Following the path of my past life. During the autumn hunt, the crown prince would present me with a wild goose he shot himself. The goose served as his betrothal gift. Yet this time he chose Jiang Zhaoying. I still remember before my death in my past life. He said indifferently, "I only wish we were strangers in the next life, not bitter spouses." For over a decade, I poured my heart and soul into him. He feared my ruthless decisiveness, dreaded my strategic calculations. This time, he chose another. Yet I congratulated him on rekindling his old love, his long-cherished wish fulfilled. Years later, the rebel kings stirred chaos, and feudal lords carved out their own territories. Amidst the fierce fighting, Lady Jiang stormed out of the capital in anger and was captured by rebels. He lost 3 cities in quick succession. As the realm crumbled, he lamented, "Yuezheng, of all women in this world, only you understood me and aided me." The crown prince ordered that the wild goose he had personally shot be presented to Jiang Zhaoying. Presenting the goose as betrothal token, the assembly gasped in astonishment. This was the crown prince's true heart's desire. His gaze lingered upon me but briefly before turning away indifferently. That single glance told me he had returned, for that look held the same cold detachment as in my past life. He offered the wild goose as betrothal token, seeking to wed the noble Jiang maiden. The crown prince's eyes brimmed with tenderness, filled with the satisfaction of finally making amends. Jiang Zhaoying's eyes reddened slightly, seemingly taken aback, her expression one of utter astonishment. Yet all eyes turned to me, their expressions mocking, as if they were witnessing a spectacle. Impossible. The empress's voice, tinged with authority, cut off the words the crown prince was about to speak. "Crown prince, Princess Yuezheng is the consort chosen for you by His Majesty and this empress." The crown prince retorted. "Her nature is stubborn and obstinate, often at odds with the sun. If I were to yield to mother's will today, I fear I would live in perpetual gloom and regret for the rest of my days. I would rather remain without a consort for life than choose her." Such cutting words did not break me. I felt no pang of sorrow, having heard such words too often. I was left only with numbness. I retorted sharply, "Thank you for your Majesty and Her Majesty's favor." This humble maiden also finds the crown prince unappealing. His Highness is indecisive, lacks discernment, and is stubbornly self-willed. He possesses nothing but an empty shell, truly incapable of arousing any interest. As my words fell, the crowd gasped in shock. Never before had anyone spoken thus of the crown prince. "My father is the king of Yu, a sovereign of his own domain. When the founding emperor seized the throne and established the Dayan dynasty, he divided the realm into 7 kingdoms, each ruled by a prince. Among these were 3 kings of different surnames, and my Yu clan was one of them. Our ancestors followed the founding emperor in conquering the land, earning distinguished merit. The princesses of Yu held a status no less exalted than the imperial princesses of the court. This marriage depends not only on his will, but also on mine. At the end of my past life, Xiaixua and I constantly quarreled for no reason, viewing each other as enemies. Returning to our youth, there was no need to waste our prime years on such matters. I said casually, "Since you've rekindled your old love and fulfilled your lifelong wish, I should offer my congratulations." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. He had realized I had returned alongside him. To return to youth. And yet the first thing I did was sever the ties between us. To outsiders, I should be seething with resentment, or my heart should be wrenching in agony. But I felt none of that. After the crowd dispersed, Jiang Zhaoying approached me cautiously and spoke softly, "Princess, I have indeed admired the crown prince for a long time. Yet he was always distant and indifferent toward me before, showing no affection. I truly don't know why he suddenly changed his heart." Her tone brimmed with unrestrained jubilation, her joy evident in every word. "In my past life, Jiang Zhaoying's feelings were known throughout the capital. Yet the crown prince Xiaozhua back then did not return her affection, treating her sentiments as if they were nothing. He was young and spirited, yet always competing with me. During the autumn hunt, he sent the wild goose he had personally shot to me. His hair fluttering lightly, he raised an eyebrow triumphantly. "This is my betrothal gift. For my future crown princess." Amidst the admiring gazes of the crowd, I accepted with a smile. Before long, the imperial decree granting our marriage arrived. Back then, we laughed with eyes crinkled in joy, convinced that our youthful vows could withstand the test of time. After he ascended the throne, we were once a united young emperor and empress, sharing glory and disgrace as one. Had the story ended there, it would have been a tale of enduring love passed down through the ages. Yet, unexpectedly, the empire shattered, storms swept across the land, and warlords rose in rebellion. I had to stand by him, guarding this broken realm, suppressing traitors alongside him, striving to restore a peaceful and prosperous era. A struggle for the throne. Years of relentless warfare, we emerged victorious by the narrowest margin. But when the realm was finally secured, neither of us possessed the spirit of our youth. He asked me again and again, "Where has that frank, pure wishing of our youth gone?" I too wanted to ask. But for the sake of protecting our nation and family, I had no choice. I weighed the pros and cons. I schemed and plotted. And even my hands became stained with blood. In the stormy times, he said, "With you by my side, I feel at ease." But when the empire was at peace, he said, "Your thoughts now run deep and unfathomable," filling this emperor with fear in the dead of night. From that moment, I felt it was not worth it. His character lacked the resilience to be a truly great and visionary ruler. His abilities were barely sufficient to maintain the status quo. When chaos engulfed the realm and lives were lost, he offered only panic and helplessness. I was forced to shoulder everything alone. Yet my ruthless decisions and strategic maneuvers only earned his later distrust and suspicion. From initial testing to shattered trust, our bond reached its end. Jiang Zhaoying's devotion remained unwavering over the years, and her tender affection moved him. Her gentle care warmed the restless heart he carried through the turmoil of war. Our child asked him, "Father, was not mother your true love? Why must you break her heart like this?" Yet he remained silent for a long while, uttering only these words, "Once, I loved your mother most of all. Now, I simply love another person too." I stood far away on the corridor, hearing his answer with my own ears. "Did you quarrel with His Highness, causing him to act so stubbornly?" Jiang Zhaoying's words snapped me back to reality. Observing the scene before me, my tone grew grave. "My past with him is none of your concern. Focus on your own future." With that, I turned and rode away. Days later, an imperial edict arrived, appointing Jiang Zhaoying as crown princess. Maid Qingyang cautiously inquired, "Your Highness has been summoned to the capital for 2 years now, awaiting marriage. With this unexpected complication, we should swiftly send an urgent letter to His Majesty, explaining the situation and seeking his intervention." Such a minor matter, why must it be reported to father? "I can handle it myself." Qingyang looked utterly perplexed. How can the position of crown princess be considered minor? She could never comprehend. When the storm of upheaval eventually engulfs the land, when the empire crumbles, when imperial power slips from the throne, when feudal lords seize their chance, when rebel princes seize the throne, what will a mere crown princess title matter then? All paths unfolded as before, save that Xiaozhua's chosen crown princess became Jiang Zhaoying. She entered the Eastern Palace, and the wedding ceremony was grand and solemn. The wedding procession need not have passed my residence, yet it deliberately circled around here. Drums and music resounded, creating a lively atmosphere. I heard the crown prince personally led the procession to show his esteem. As they passed outside my estate, the drumbeats and music grew especially loud. I leafed through the scroll in my hands, never lifting my gaze. Such a spectacle remained unchanged from my past life. Yet I refused to spare him even a glance. The sudden change in the crown prince's consort sparked widespread gossip in the streets. Xiaozhua had done many things for me in the past, and these old deeds were brought up again. Yet such rumors unsettled Jiang Zhaoying. Suspicion took root in her heart, and she sent people to secretly probe into my past with the crown prince. I noticed her little maneuvers, but pretended not to know. She had long harbored feelings for Xiaozhua. When her years of affection were finally reciprocated, she should have cherished it. Yet her possessiveness and prying revealed her unease with this newfound security. She unearthed numerous items from the Eastern Palace. Among them was a set of wooden dolls. Xiaozhua had carved them by hand and given them to me. I had once ordered every single gift he had ever given me to be returned to him. Yet here they were, unearthed by her. Jealousy flickered in her eyes. "Princess," I said, "I know of your past with His Highness. But during the autumn hunt, he chose me over you. Times have changed. For years now, it is I who stand by his side, sharing his heart. I urge you to know your place and not overstep." My gaze settled on her face. Though her words were sharp, they carried the hollow ring of someone who was all bark and no bite. What the crown prince values is your gentleness and understanding. If you fail to grasp this, you may lose something far greater in the future. Your prying and possessiveness will be your undoing. I spoke slowly. Her eyes flickered for a moment before she lowered them slightly. "Your Highness need not concern yourself." After Jiang Zhaoying spoke with me that day, she fell gravely ill upon returning home, bedridden and utterly weakened. This prompted Xiaozhua to rush over, his fury palpable as he kicked the mansion gate, terrifying the trembling servants. "What did you say to her?" he demanded, his fury as intense as ever. "What caused her such grief that she's been burning with fever?" "Gravely ill?" I remained seated, arranging the chess pieces, my expression unchanged. I dismissed the servants. In the deep winter of the 11th year of Qing Yuan, she had already played this card. Back then, she went alone to the Phoenix Grace Palace, ostensibly to pay her respects, yet spoke insolently. After returning to the Purple Cloud Hall, she fell gravely ill. "You then took your anger out on me, not setting foot in the Phoenix Grace Palace for half a year. Your coming here today to cause a scene must surely be the remedy she needs. Within 10 days, she should be well again." After my reminder, Xiaozhua seemed to recall events from his past life, yet stubbornly refused to admit it. "If you wish to verify the truth, simply find any physician on the street and have him examine her pulse in the mansion." As my words fell, he appeared deep in thought, his anger already largely dissipated. Those imperial physicians might have been bribed beforehand, but a physician he randomly brought back would be beyond her manipulation. When he departed, his expression was listless, devoid of the malevolence and fury he'd carried upon arrival. Past life or present, the same tactics played out again. If he still couldn't see through it, then he deserved to be deceived. His most favored consort of the Purple Cloud Hall excelled at feigning illness and weakness, using retreat as a strategy to advance. Later, Jiang Zhaoying made many enemies in the palace and was poisoned in an assassination attempt. Yet even as she lay dying, she clung to her accusations against me. "The Yu clan won't tolerate me, driving me to this end." She breathed her last, leaving an indelible rift between Xiaozhua and me. He rebuilt her palace, set up eternal lamps in her honor, and brought alchemists into the palace, all to make her appear in his dreams. When I passed away from illness, he said, "May we be strangers in the next life, not bitter companions." Now, reborn into this new existence, his greatest relief must be that Jiang Zhaoying still lives. with the old acquaintance still by his side. He still has a heart full of regrets to make amends for. But all of this has nothing to do with me anymore. Envoys from you have arrived. On the day I entered the palace to bid farewell, I encountered Xiaozhua again outside the gates. His expression was grave, his gaze lowered. The moment our eyes met, he finally spoke haltingly. The events of the 11th year of Qingyuan, I wrongly blamed you. So he had gone to verify it. Was it only that one time? If every single incident were recounted, it would never end. Yue Sheng, you always press so relentlessly, leaving no room to breathe. Zhao Ying has already apologized and admitted her fault. She simply cared too deeply for me and felt uneasy. Why must you insist on arguing over who is right or wrong? Is seeking justice truly so relentless? I scoffed, unwilling to waste more breath on him. Yet he blocked my path. Speaking, I know you are wise and resourceful. She is no match for you. The enmity between us, past and present, runs deep. You possess memories of our former life, while she does not. This is unfair to her. Should you encounter her again, I implore you to show mercy. Do not torment her. My gaze drifted to the figure approaching swiftly on a tall steed. Your Highness worries too much. From now on, there will be no need for me to see you or the Crown Princess again. What do you mean? Xiaozhua demanded in astonishment. I am returning to you. Xiaozhua followed my gaze. Arriving by his father's command was Feng Che, the general of Yu. He remained unchanged from years past, silver saddle, white steed, his expression as stern as ever. In my previous life, gravely ill, I had sent word to you, after my death. I wished not to be interred in the imperial mausoleum, but to return to my homeland and rest in the Yu royal tombs. It was he who came to fetch me. By then, silver streaks had begun to appear at his temples. Having fought alongside my father for years, guarding the people of Yu, he had never married. What happened after that? I knew not. Princess, I have come to take you home. I took a step toward Feng Che, but the crown prince suddenly seized my arm. Anger flared in his eyes as he snapped. In this life, you choose him? Your Highness oversteps. In this lifetime, whom I choose is none of your concern. As my words fell, he grew agitated, his grip tightening painfully. You may choose anyone, but never him. My gaze lifted slightly, inadvertently revealing a trace of scorn. Your Highness forgets your station. You now hold no authority to interfere with any of my decisions. I jerked my hand free, effortlessly breaking his grip. Emotions churned in his eyes, yet he forced down his rage. As our bodies brushed past, I halted abruptly, my smile carrying a pointed meaning, the one you forbid me to choose. Your Highness? That is precisely the one I will choose. Fury flared in his gaze, but it quickly dissolved into resignation. I hurried toward Feng Che. His usually stern expression softened slightly as he swiftly reached out. I seized his hand, using it to mount the horse, sharing the saddle with him. Princess, I'm late. Xiaozhua's gaze was dark as it fell between Feng Che and me, but I refused to spare him another glance. Yue Sheng, did you plan this escape with him all along? Xiaozhua pressed again. So what if I did? My reply rang out with unyielding force. The moment the words fell, I cracked the whip. Hooves kicked up grass and dust in a whirlwind. Feng Che and I galloped away, leaving Xiaozhua to hear only my echo fading into the air. My return to you felt like stepping into another lifetime. Back in the old palace halls, every blade of grass and tree stood as they had in memory. Feng Che thought my 2-year absence had made me long for home, but it was a lifetime past and present. In my past life, once I entered the capital, I never returned. I ultimately passed away there from illness. This place, my homeland, was one I longed for yet could never return to. When father learned the marriage was called off, he offered comfort instead. Imperial life is complex. The palace hard to navigate. Better to stay in you and live freely. Back then, the emperor commanded, and we had no choice but to obey. Now that the crown prince refuses, it's actually a blessing. Seeing father's countenance now feels like another lifetime. In my past life, to aid the imperial family in quelling rebellion, father worked himself to exhaustion and illness. Looking back, it was all for naught. In this life, Xiaozhua must guard his own realm. My Yu clan will no longer pour out our hearts and souls, nor shed blood in battle for him. Father, now that I have returned, I wish to resume command of the Flying Cloud Cavalry. The Flying Cloud Cavalry was handpicked and trained by me. Before I was summoned to the capital, they served as my personal guard. Father agreed. But he then added, news from the capital speaks of the crown prince's drastic change in temperament. Unlike his former self. Do you know why? The Xiaozhua of today is no longer that youth of 20. Having endured the wars of his previous life and ruled as emperor for many years. Even one as indecisive as he now carries a certain air of authority and resolve. People inevitably change. Knowing the weight of his responsibilities, the crown prince naturally differs from before. I responded with only a light touch. Not long after my return to you, I heard that His Majesty's health was failing, with frequent migraines, and that the crown prince had assumed the regency, handling daily affairs. In his previous life, at this age, he could not have borne such a heavy burden, though many court officials still harbored doubts about him. Since taking charge of state affairs, he had demonstrated shrewd judgment in recognizing talent and making decisive decisions. A court official proposed reducing the power of the feudal lords, stating, when our ancestors founded this realm, they established feudal princes as mutual bulwarks, defending against external threats and safeguarding the capital. Yet now, these princes' power has grown excessive, and the danger of internal strife looms near. We implore your majesty to make a swift decision. Yet the advisor was not rewarded. Instead, Xiaozhua rebuked him, accusing him of sowing discord among kin and disheartening loyal ministers. He was banished to the frontier, never to be heard from again. Seeing the crown prince showed no intent to reduce the fiefdoms, the princes breathed a collective sigh of relief. Save for a few princes of different surnames, the rest were all members of the imperial clan. The crown prince's rebuke had indeed reassured them considerably. Yet I knew Xiaozhua's actions were merely a diversion, meant to lull the princes into lowering their guard. When rebellion comes, there will be no regard for blood ties. Brothers taking up arms against each other is a common sight. If my prediction holds true, those who proposed reducing the fiefdoms will surely be secretly promoted by him. Xiaozhua's current actions are merely a delaying tactic. Yu Kingdom absolutely cannot sit idly by and await its doom. Father, during my 2 years in the capital, I have closely observed the court's dynamics. Though the waters appear calm now, turmoil may soon erupt. The imperial house and the feudal princes are already at odds. Should great calamity approach, you must possess the strength to defend itself, to protect its people from the slaughter of war. A flicker of astonishment crossed father's face. Where did you hear this? Father, within 5 years, the crown prince will inevitably move to strip the feudal princes of their power, and the Prince of Yen will surely rebel. My tone was unwavering. The certainty and gravity in my voice commanded his attention. The situation in this lifetime might prove even more complex. Having experienced the events of his past life, Xiaozhua now returns, poised and ready. When he draws his sword in the future, it will be aimed at the princes. The reduction of feudal powers is an inevitable trend. Even if the Prince of Yen does not rebel, Xiaozhua may not tolerate him. Father pondered for a long time, then took out a token and placed it in my hand. 5 years ago, Your elder brother passed away unexpectedly, leaving the position of crown prince vacant. Now that I know you possess foresight and a compassionate heart, wishing to protect the people of you, then go forth and do so. I clasped the heavy jade token. It signified his permission for me to exercise my elder brother's authority. Father and mother were deeply devoted to each other, bound for life and death, with only my brother and me as their children. Since mother and my elder brother passed away one after the other, father seemed to age overnight, sinking into despondency day after day. He often cried out in nightmares, calling out mother and my brother's names. In the past life, when the Prince of Yen plotted rebellion, other traitorous ministers followed suit. In this life, with Siajwaru pressing relentlessly, I fear the Prince of Yen won't endure much longer. The great Yin dynasty, founded centuries ago, has endured through generations. Yet by the reign of the current emperor, the imperial house has weakened, while feudal princes grow powerful. The Prince of Yen commands the northern lands, his forces mighty and his ambitions fierce, gazing hungrily upon the capital. If history repeats itself, chaos may erupt within mere years. For now, he holds his power, biding his time. This lifetime, my youthful discord with Siajwa and our parting ways have proven fortunate for me. I have reassumed command of the Flying Cloud Cavalry, personally overseeing their training. When storms rage in the future, it will be their time to shine. I have also ordered the reinforcement of city defenses, the recruitment of soldiers, and the stockpiling of provisions. I led the royal physicians personally to the southwest, spending half a year eradicating the plague there. It was 3 years later that I saw Siajwa again. Throughout those 3 years, court and country alike praised the crown prince for his diligence, managing countless affairs day and night. Yet he came to you in person, all because the King of Yen, at his birthday celebration, had openly declared his intent to seek the hand of Yu's princess for his heir. Within 10 days, envoys from Yen arrived in Yu, declaring, "We have heard of Princess Yu's ethereal beauty and noble grace. Our crown prince, with his splendid bearing and dignified demeanor, is now of marriageable age. This union would be a match made in heaven, a perfect pair. We humbly request, on behalf of our king's heir, to wed Princess Yu, uniting our two houses in a bond to last 100 years. The news spread like wildfire, sending ripples across the land. All eyes in the realm turned to this matter. Worry flickered in my father's eyes as ministers argued fiercely, spittle flying as they debated the pros and cons. Accept or refuse. Both paths presented difficulties. Yet they seemed to forget this decision rested with me. Feng Che rushed back through the night, bearing the chill of frost, and sought an audience outside the palace. Your Highness, I have a strategy to resolve this dilemma. Outside the hall, snow began to fall in heavy flurries. I donned my cloak and saw him standing beneath the eaves, his gaze intense. If your Highness consents to the marriage, I shall be the reason for your refusal. I noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes, his clothes dusted with snow. His hasty journey back must have been exhausting. The usually composed and steady young general now showed traces of unease and tension in his eyes. I took the large cloak from the maid's hands and offered it to him. But the words that followed instantly extinguished the glimmer of hope in his eyes. Thank you for your kindness, General, but I cannot accept. I returned to this life not to seek another man to shield me from the world. I shall be a towering tree, not a clinging vine. Feng Che was unaware that days prior, my father had already suggested that if I wished, I could refuse Yen Kingdom's marriage proposal by citing our pre-existing betrothal. As a general of Yu Kingdom, if my father declared our betrothal and forged a marriage contract, it would indeed be the simplest thing in the world. I refuse. Feng Che did not press for reasons. His expression darkened, but only for an instant. Turning, He declared with unwavering resolve, "Your Highness may choose as you will. This soldier swears to follow you to the death and protect you with my life." He departed amidst the swirling snow. But I knew well that another person was the one urgently trying to stop this marriage. This matter should not be mine to agonize over. He would surely come on this journey. When Siajwa appeared at the royal palace, I was not surprised. He had concealed his identity, traveling incognito. You must know that the king of Yen harbors wolfish ambitions, and his crown prince's marriage proposal is driven by ulterior motives. The moment he saw me, his tone bristled with anger. "I know. So what?" I replied nonchalantly, settling into my seat with leisurely ease. Seeing my utterly unconcerned demeanor, his voice rose another notch. "Do you intend to marry the crown prince of Yen and become my enemy?" He spoke with fury, his emotions boiling over. The Yen delegation seeking marriage is still lodged at the post station, awaiting my consent. Siajwa must be anxious. If I agree, Yen and you will form an alliance, their forces united. What chance would he have in battle then? Moreover, having shared over a decade as husband and wife, I know him too well. Should we ever face each other on the battlefield, I would be the one who knows his weaknesses best. Setting aside my past life's experience stabilizing war-torn realms, my understanding of him alone would give the Prince of Yen a formidable edge. If I insist on accepting this marriage, what then? Kill me? I rose slowly and drew near him. His hand tightened slightly, his gaze faltering, his eyes clouded with confusion and hesitation. After a long moment, he spoke softly. "Even in our past life, when all knew we were enemies, our bonds severed, I never once considered killing you. In this life, you remain the sole empress in Fini Palace. In this life, even if we cannot be husband and wife, I refuse to be your enemy." His words scattered with the wind. I was indeed the sole empress in Fini Palace, because my Yu clan had earned immense merit, aiding him in unifying the realm. But later, he gained a consort who enjoyed unwaning favor, cherished and adored. I rescued him from peril, guarding Mo City in his stead. All believed the emperor was there, drawing the rebel army's main force into siege. Little did they know only I remained within its walls, with the enemy at the gates and peril imminent. I bought him a crucial half-month's delay. Had I known that true devotion, risking life and limb, would only earn me a cold, empty throne and years of resentment, I would have cherished my life far more dearly back then. I spoke with a mocking tone, yet my words carried a hint of scorn. He fell silent for a moment, a flicker of guilt appearing in his eyes. Siajwa once said I was a schemer, manipulating people's hearts. Yes. This time, I knew full well he would come. The one who should be anxious to resolve this predicament is not me, but him. Therefore, from start to finish, I never worried about it. The Yenyue alliance is a grave threat to the imperial court. This marriage brings him nothing but harm. He will surely come to stop it, or rather, he wants to probe my true stance. The one weighing the pros and cons was now him. He lacked the strength to kill me and dared not act rashly. He feared I might aid the king of Yen. He understood better than anyone that making peace with me was the wisest course. In the days to come, in your struggle with the king of Yen, I will not be his ally. Hearing my words, the worry in his eyes faded completely, replaced by relief. With such a promise from you, I am at ease. He made this journey personally to hear me utter this pledge, to neither aid the Prince of Yen nor intervene. 5 days later, the imperial edict arrived. The imperial family intended to marry Princess Yongjia of the imperial clan to the crown prince of Yen, with the emperor personally bestowing this marriage. Yen had no grounds to refuse. The matter of seeking the hand of the princess of Yu, already uncertain, now needed no further mention. The impasse was resolved. Xiaojue had prepared this imperial decree before even arriving in you. You and Yan must never form an alliance through marriage, otherwise all his scheming over the past 3 years would be wasted. In my previous life, I married him. My father upheld the imperial lineage and aided the court in punishing the rebellious prince. But in this life, our marital bond has been severed. When war erupts in the days to come, my father's true stance remains unknown. Xiaojue publicly rebuked ministers who proposed reducing the power of the feudal lords, yet secretly made thorough preparations. He reorganized the imperial guard, established the feathered forest guards and 18 commanders to protect the capital, added southern and northern armies, recruited soldiers without restriction, and promoted military talents. Additionally, he appointed inspector governors in each province, nominally as imperial favor, but truly for surveillance. They monitored the actions of local prefects and feudal lords. Within the capital, he set up the supervisory bureau to oversee officials, preventing collusion with the princes. In every detail, he had indeed come prepared. He stayed in you for 10 days, yet sought me out daily for chess matches. His playing style bore no trace of the indecisiveness from his past life, instead carrying a new, ruthless decisiveness. His chess reflected his character. He too had shed the gentleness and benevolence of his former self, his sharp edges now fully exposed. Within his chessboard unfolded the grand strategy of the realm. Seeing the confidence and readiness in his words, I considered warning him, but ultimately chose silence. Only when he truly engaged in the contest would he know whether his calculations were flawless or merely stubborn self-assurance. I slowly placed a stone. His eyes crinkled with amusement. Meeting a worthy opponent was a rare blessing in life. Then his gaze lowered, his tone turning grave. Alas, the crown princess does not understand. She cannot see the grand strategy of this game. She knows nothing of the ceaseless drums of war and the suffering of the people to come. She only knows of admiring flowers, watching snow, and combing her hair before the mirror. A thread of barely perceptible weariness and disdain threaded through his words. I offered no reply. His eastern palace was no longer solely Jiang Zhaoying's. To balance court politics and win over noble clans, he had taken several consorts and fathered several children. In my past life, their bond had been one of moonlit nights and blossoms, devoid of the weight of state and nation. Jiang Zhaoying was the favored consort of the prosperous era after the realm's stabilization, a gentle, eloquent flower who smiled, yet she was not the one who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him during turbulent times. Steadying the empire. By choosing her, he sealed his fate amidst the drudgery of state affairs. He would fight alone. She reenacted every tactic she'd used against me in my past life. One by one, within the Eastern Palace's courtyards. I wonder if he finds it familiar. He relived it all, this second time around. But none of it concerns me anymore. As Xiaojue departed Yu Kingdom, he glanced at Fengche standing not far behind me and murmured softly, when you were gravely ill in our past life. He stormed the imperial city, brandishing his 3-foot blade, demanding I pay with my life. Noticing the shock in my eyes, Xiaojue shook his head and chuckled wryly. So you truly never knew his intentions in our past life. His expression was complex. May we be friends, not enemies. In the days to come. I offered no reply. Whether we would be friends or foes in the future, I dared not promise him. Xiaojue had come incognito, no one knew his purpose. Father was puzzled, yet knew this matter was inextricably linked to me. I did not explain the full story to father, only saying, a storm is brewing. Regarding Yu's future, have you made your decision? Hesitation and despondency flickered in father's eyes. His voice low, your father has grown old. The ambitions of youth have faded. Since your mother and brother passed, I have only wished to protect the people of Yu and live out my days in peace. After 100 years, I wish to be buried alongside your mother. I desire no involvement in other matters. In his youth, he had only ever aspired to be a loyal servant of the Xia clan, never contemplating anything beyond that. Now in his twilight years, he possessed none of the boldness or resolve of his youth, seeking only to live quietly in a corner of the realm. Yet the present circumstances left him no room for such thoughts. The court was in full swing preparing for His Majesty's birthday celebration, with governors and feudal lords from all regions busily presenting precious treasures. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. Yet, unnoticed in a corner, 20,000 elite troops were deployed south of the Huailing Mountains along Yan's border. This was Xiaoju's doing. The Prince of Guangyang unexpectedly acquired a remarkably spirited bird. Its feathers were soft and dense, its form resembling a crane. Upon hearing the sound of bells or chimes, it would flap its wings and cry out long and loud, a sign of auspiciousness. The prince presented it to the palace as a gift to celebrate the emperor's 1,000-year reign. Yet, the bird that arrived at the palace was already dead. The auspicious sign had turned ominous. His Majesty flew into a rage, declaring it a deliberate curse and an act of disloyalty. On this pretext, he stripped Xiaoju of his title and confiscated his estate. Overnight, the entire family was brought low. Curse and disloyalty were merely excuses to strike. Xiaoju had long plotted this, launching his attack first to leave no room for respite. In the previous era, the three princes who conspired against the throne were led by the Prince of Yan, with the Prince of Guangyang and the Prince of Liang as his deputies. Among them, the Prince of Guangyang held the weakest power, making him the sacrificial pawn for Xiaoju. Today, he used this incident to strike, intimidating the other princes. Such lightning-fast action left them utterly unprepared. After the birthday banquet, His Majesty's illness grew severe, and he was on his deathbed. In the depths of winter, the emperor passed away. Xiaoju ascended the throne. The new sovereign proclaimed a general amnesty, showering blessings upon the land. The late emperor, confined to his sickbed for his final years, held only the empty title of sovereign. Xiaoju had served as regent for several years, long since wielding the true power. The entire court, naturally, submitted willingly. Yet his first imperial decree after ascending the throne summoned the princes of Yan and Liang to the capital to pay homage to the new sovereign. An imperial decree was clear: refusal meant defiance of the sovereign's command, compliance meant a journey with no return. For feudal princes, entering the capital was a journey where death was more likely than survival. This was a blatant invitation into a trap they could no longer endure. For the princes, Xiaoju's previous actions were like a dagger hanging over their heads, ready to fall at any moment. The Prince of Yan had long harbored treasonous thoughts. He was no fish on the chopping block. Helpless and resigned. Advance meant death, retreat meant death. The Prince of Yan had no choice. When the Prince of Yan rebelled, the Prince of Liang followed suit. The realm stirred with unrest, the empire's complexion changed. The struggle for power between the imperial house and the feudal princes would inevitably culminate in battle. The Prince of Yan had nurtured his ambitions for over a decade. Xiaoju had returned only a few years prior, even with his past life memories granting him an initial advantage. Victory was far from assured. Those 20,000 elite troops merely delayed the Yan army for 7 days, failing to halt their advance entirely. The Yan forces swept southward from the north, unstoppable as a bamboo shoot breaking through the earth. They joined forces with the Liang King's army at Mo City, then captured Wu City and crossed the Nui River. Perhaps that day, I should have warned Xiaoju that the Yan King's strength far exceeded his imagination. But in the end, I did not warn him. In my past life, the Yu clan bore too much of the storm for him, making his victories come too easily. He came to believe he truly possessed the strength to stand alone. This time, I would not fight alongside him. The Yu clan would no longer be the loyal, self-sacrificing support behind him. This storm of blood and carnage would be his burden alone to bear. This war proved far more arduous and brutal than he had ever imagined. He had overestimated himself and underestimated the King of Yen. Even given a second chance, though his abilities far surpassed those of his past life, his strength alone could not stem the tide. Over these years, Yu had bided its time, conserving strength to protect itself, shielding its people even amidst storms and turmoil. When the King of Yen sought passage through Yu, I issued a stern refusal. That night, he launched a surprise assault under cover of darkness and fierce winds. Driven by his ambition, he naturally sought to seize you in the same breath. But I was prepared. As beacon fires blazed across the ramparts and drums thundered, he realized his overconfidence. Clad in battle gear, I stood atop the tower, watching his forces crushed by rolling thunderstones and logs, scorched by volleying fire crossbows, and drowned in a hail of arrows amid endless cries of agony. King Yen, you've kept us waiting. My voice echoed from the ramparts. Realizing he'd fallen into a trap, he watched his men flee in panic and hastily ordered a retreat. Attacking through you marked his first defeat in this campaign. Tonight's setback will spare you from further entanglement with Yen. He will surely seek another path. Pressing directly toward the imperial capital, Father entrusted me with the royal seal. When the nest is overturned, no egg remains unbroken. If endurance brings no calm, then let us fight. By now, even Father understands that without struggle, there is no path to survival. Whether King Yen prevails or Xiaojue triumphs, you will become someone else's prey. Should King Yen win, he will demand submission from all under heaven. You may then become either a vassal of the Yen clan or perish by their blade. Should Xiaojue prevail, the imperial court's suppression of feudal states will be imminent. As a vassal state, you will face Xiaojue's sword, and the entire Yu clan will be at his mercy. With the situation thus, the Yu clan likewise had no choice. The moment my words fell, Father understood what I intended to do. He gave me the royal seal, granting me authority. All of Yu's forces now fell under my command. Standing high above, I gazed toward the capital. Perhaps its fall would come within half a month. It would come faster than in my previous life. A long wind arose. From the watchtower, I gazed upon the star-filled sky and murmured to myself, Xiaojue, in this life, I only promised not to aid the Yen King. I never pledged to refrain from striving myself. This cannot be called a broken promise. Within 7 days, the imperial city fell, faster than I had imagined. Amidst the fierce fighting, Jiang Zhaoying stormed out of the capital in a huff. It was because, in a time of need, Xiaojue had favored military talents. To win the hearts of the people, he lavishly treated the daughters of military families in the harem, neglecting her for a long time. Seeing the capital in peril, she left a final letter severing ties with Xiaojue. Disguised as a palace attendant, she slipped out of the city, intending to flee to the eastern islands to escape the crisis. Unexpectedly, she was captured by rebel forces en route. To save her life, she revealed to the Yen King that all troops destined for the 3 western cities had been redeployed to defend the capital. The cities now lay undefended, occupied only by the elderly, women, and children. The Yen King captured Yanqing, Luqing, and Guqing without shedding a drop of blood. Xiaojue lost all 3 cities. Having failed to advance through Yu that day, the Yen King diverted his route to Lingzhou, sweeping through unopposed and unimpeded. Now, the capital was in peril. Xiaojue had already fled with his ministers and the imperial consorts, retreating to the Heiyang Palace. Relying on its natural fortifications easy to defend, hard to attack, they faced off against the Yen King's forces. How long this stalemate could last remained uncertain. Perhaps only now did Xiaojue realize the folly of his stubborn self-reliance. The Yen King's forces had long resisted northern steppe tribes, hardened by years of brutal combat. Xiaojue, however, commanded only hastily recruited soldiers from recent years. untested in the life and death struggles of the battlefield. Worse still, wherever the Prince of Yen passed, prefects and soldiers surrendered willingly. Years of feasting and revelry had long since erased their knowledge of how to fight. Though Xiaozhua had retreated to the Heian Palace, he remained the nominal son of heaven. He issued several imperial edicts, commanding the Yu clan to come to the rescue. By the time the eunuch messenger reached the Yu royal palace, he was barely clinging to life. By imperial decree, the Yu clan is commanded to raise troops and come to the aid of the throne. Accompanying the edict was a personal letter. His Majesty said these were to be delivered personally to the princess. His Majesty promised that if the rebel forces were repelled, he would one day renew his bond with the princess. Sharing the realm together, the two sovereigns would rule side by side, without distinction of seniority. With those words, the eunuch drew his last breath. I ordered him to be buried with great honor. Feng Che asked me, Princess, shall we send troops? Not yet. The time is not ripe. In my past life, I and the Yu clan sacrificed our lives without hesitation. Yet we received no reward. Now, how dare he think his empty promises can sway me to aid him? What I desire is not a co-regency or sharing the world, but the supreme throne, mine alone. In my past life, I guarded for him. In this life, I fight for myself. Though the Heian Palace is easy to defend and hard to attack, its provisions can sustain us for no more than half a month. The Yen King's army, weary from conquest, has camped and settled, waiting for rabbits to come to them. Morale at the Heian Palace has collapsed. Everyone knows that prolonging the siege is merely waiting for death. The stars have shifted, our moment has arrived. Soldiers of Yu, follow me into battle. Rescue the emperor. Purge the traitor. For this day, my preparations rival Xiaozhua's. The Flying Cloud Cavalry, elite troops I trained myself. Selected through rigorous trials. Honed over years of service. They now seek glory. Yan's treason is known to all. Now, acting on the emperor's decree to raise arms against him, I possess the righteous cause. I must even thank Xiaozhua for handing me this banner of legitimacy. This battle against the Yen King has dragged on too long. His troops, marching from the northern lands, have grown weary from the long journey and the unfamiliar terrain. He now finds himself in the heartland, caught between two fires, besieged on all sides. Neither Xiaozhua nor the King of Yen anticipated that the 12 tribes of the southwest would all stand as my allies. The barbarian tribes may lack cunning, but they are fierce and skilled in battle. At my command, they become the sharp blade in my hand. In the past, I brought physicians from you to cure the plague afflicting the barbarian tribes, healing their chieftain and saving them from peril. In today's battle, they too are willing to lend their full strength to aid you. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the sparrow behind. The Yen King's forces have long been overextended and exhausted. Our Yu army has rested and regrouped, awaiting this very day. My forces severed the Yen army's supply lines deep within their territory, scattering them like loose sand. The King of Liang perished in the chaos, devastating their morale. The King of Yen shows clear signs of defeat, yet he remains unwilling to concede. What could that Xia scoundrel possibly offer you? I can offer you double. If you aid him now, once he secures his throne, he will first target the feudal lords of other surnames. When the birds are gone, the bow is hidden. When the rabbits are dead, the dogs are cooked. That will be your fate. Trapped in his isolated city, the Yen King continued his provocative words, hoping to make me his pawn. Seated atop my horse, my crimson-plumed spear pointed skyward, I declared aloud, Yen King, you and Xiaozhua both desire my service. But have you considered that supreme power is a fine thing? I desire it too. The King of Yan's hand trembled as he pointed at me. Then he burst into laughter. Well now, Princess Yu, Your ambition has reached such heights that you dare covet the imperial throne. Let that Siabrat see clearly, his defeat was no accident. Yes. Siajwa's defeat was no accident. He never truly acknowledged my ambition or my capabilities. Despite his empty promises, he still saw me as a vassal from a past life, fit only to pave his path. Arrogant and self-righteous, he wove his own cocoon of destruction. When I breached the city walls, the king of Yen took his own life. He could not bear to lose to me. Such an ending suits him well. In the city dungeon, I saw Jiang Zhaoying, tortured beyond recognition, her flesh mangled and bleeding. Her lips murmured hatred. Whom do you hate? I asked softly. Siajwa. Her response came instinctively. That was her last breath, sustained only by the weight of her hatred. He is dying. You need not hate him anymore. As I turned to leave, her hand fell limp, as if her last obsession had finally faded. The Yen king is dead. The isolated city has fallen. The Heian palace poses no threat anymore. Siajwa's features were gaunt, his imperial robes dusty. When he saw me, emotion stirred in his eyes. His voice slightly choked. Yuezheng, among all the women in this world, only you understand me and help me. I knew you would come. In my past life, when I rescued him from the siege of Luo City and saved him from the brink of death, he had spoken these very words. But what did I gain in the end? He continued, I regret all my past actions. I have wronged you. Then, Your Majesty, have you considered how you might make amends? I shall crown you Empress. We shall rule the realm together. The harem shall remain empty, you alone shall be mine. Before his words faded, my crimson-plumed spear pierced his chest. Blood stained his robes. His eyes filled with disbelief. As he writhed in agony upon the ground, I laughed, but what I desire is not to share the throne with you. I crave the supreme imperial seat, the power to grant life or death. What you bestow can never compare to what I seize with my own hands. Before his final breath left him, I spoke again. Prince Yen plotted rebellion. His Majesty was slain by him at the Heian Summer Palace. The Xie dynasty ends here. Princess Yu, summoned to aid the throne, purged the traitor and re-established a new dynasty. The annals of history, meticulously recorded, will detail it thus. Your Majesty, your vengeance is mine. You may rest in peace. His fingers trembled slightly, yet he could do nothing. The annals of history, meticulously recorded, they are written by the victors. What I speak of is the so-called truth future generations shall witness. The turmoil of war has ceased, all things lie in ruins. Awaiting revival. The Xie clan perished. The great Yin dynasty fell. I established a new dynasty, naming it Yu, with its capital at Jade Capital. I honored my father as the Grand Emperor Emeritus. Yet he, advanced in years, clung to the Yu royal city, refusing to depart. Standing atop Yujing, I surveyed the jade towers and palaces, the rivers and mountains in splendid array. Feng Che stood beside me, puzzled. Your Majesty seems quite taken with the scenery here? It is not the scenery, I replied, but the state of mind. I shall never again be entangled in others' loves and hates. I am the master of this realm. I smiled faintly, indifferent. Feng Che's gaze grew resolute as he spoke slowly. This servant will devote every ounce of strength to aid your Majesty in expanding our borders and subduing the barbarian tribes. The end.